My name is John Barrick. I've been an accounting professor at Brigham Young University for 22 years and a certified public accountant for almost 30 years. This is part 2 of my video on Orem School District Fund calculations. Thank you for your time. From the prior slide, Stronger Together and Alpine School District issued some Orem-only estimates that were found to be erroneous. In February, Sissy Rasmussen told the Orem City Council that taxes would go up 25% and services would go down, an unsubstantiated claim of huge tax rate increases. Through a grandma request, Sissy claimed she'd been making it up. In March, Ada Wilson started claiming that tax rates would increase by 36% based on Keith Wilson, her husband's calculations, that were later shown to be erroneous. In April and May, Alpine School District Business Services answered a grammar request stating that they had no documents supported to either of these huge tax increase claims. Now, since June, Stronger Together has kept doubling down with fictitious tax rate claims that they would go up 40%, 56%, and finally 51%. Even though there's no credible evidence to back up these claims, this is simply fear-mongering and can't be tolerated. There were really no tax increases. Remember, ASD's own data showed that Orem had a surplus or contributed 4.5% more in funding than the percentage of students in 2021. The feasibility study showed that an Orem-only district would need only a 3.5% tax increase without an ASD bond. How did Stronger Together ever manage to claim 51% tax increases to scare voters? Alpine School District raised taxes 9.5% in 2022, which provides more than enough revenue that no additional tax increases would be needed. That 3.5% increase that was projected is swallowed up by their 9.5% increase this year. A number of plausible or likely scenarios show small tax increases or decreases. All the tax increases claimed by Stronger Together were designed to scare voters. The Alpine School District needs to keep Orem to keep paying for building schools in the fast-growing portions of the district. Because of all the claims of massive tax increases by Stronger Together using Alpine School District's calculations for an Orem-only district, which only included the general fund, the Utah Taxpayers Association decided to look into the issue a little bit more. They issued a statement on Proposition 2, an Orem-only district, and they said to vote yes to create a district. Here's what the Utah Taxpayers Association had to say. After extensive research and analysis, the Utah Taxpayers Association wanted to provide the taxpayers of Orem with accurate information that will hopefully inform them as they vote on Proposition 2. The association has gathered information from the Utah County Assessor's Office, the Utah State Tax Commission, the Utah State Board of Education, and the Office of Legislative Fiscal Analyst. Now, what that means is they listen to both Stronger Together's arguments and those promoting an Orem-only district. And after hearing both sides and reviewing all the calculations, they went to tax experts from the County Assessor's Office, the Utah State Tax Commission, the State Board of Education's financial analysts, and the legislature's financial analysts on education, and asked them to weigh in. Stronger Together claims that if Orem were to be split into a new school district, property taxes would go up by 56%. This is patently false. This claim is based on inaccurate calculations which suggest that Alpine School District subsidizes Orem school costs. These calculations are inaccurate for several reasons, which I'll detail in a few minutes. Now, the Utah Taxpayers Association went on to say, by our own calculations, if higher taxes were needed, any near-term increase would be very modest, similar to the feasibility study. If the cities of Linden and Vineyard were added to the district, eventually as well, the tax base would even be stronger. Finally, in a smaller district that was Orem-centric, Orem taxpayers could better hold the new school board accountable for any proposed bonds or changes in tax rates. Finally, they said, that is, if the claims by Stronger Together were correct, and that the remainder of the Alpine School District subsidizes Orem to the tune of millions of dollars per year, why would they so vociferously oppose letting Orem tax base form its own district? Just doesn't make sense, which is why the Utah Taxpayers Association and several governmental entities, all pointing to the fact that these tax projections were patently false. The question that keeps coming up is, why split the district now? Why don't we wait a little longer? Well, there's some important reasons why. First, Orem had a surplus in 2021. Now is the time to be accountable to our children. Orem has 3 seismically critical schools, known since at least 2006 to Alpine School District, who has not fixed these schools in the last 16 years, and they're unlikely to do so now. Orem residents have transferred $174 million to build schools in the fast-growing areas of the district, all while Orem schools are being consolidated and sold off. For example, Hillcrest sold in 2021, and Polaris sold in 2022. Alpine School District has proposed a $595 million bond that will burden Orem residents with another $116 million in debt, and has offered to build unnecessary gyms for Orem and Timpanogos high schools for a return of $15 to $20 million, a luxury when Orem really needs is to fix our seismically unsafe schools. Growth projections of 250% for Eagle Mountain and Saratoga Springs between now and the year 2050 will make these cities larger than Orem and Lehigh, requiring at least 4 or 5 more bonds. 2 more bonds will subject Orem to so much debt that an Orem-only district will likely no longer be feasible without the significant tax increases that Stronger Together is claiming for now. The 2022 bond would subject Orem taxpayers to likely to $11 million of additional debt, with only a fraction of that going to help Orem and not fix our seismically unsafe schools. Now, once Orem is sufficiently burdened with debt, the inevitable split will happen, and Orem will have to raise taxes just to fix our still seismically unsafe schools. That's just not fair to Orem's children. Start analyzing the Alpine School District Orem shortfall calculation by looking at their audited 2021 financial statements. This comes from page 40 of their financial statements. You can see on the left my calculations, which tie exactly to the graphic on the right, which is page 40 from the comprehensive financial statements. ASD general fund revenues were $625 million. That's an important number, remember that. ASD general fund expenditures were $618.7 million. Those tie exactly. ASD property taxes were $264 million. $138 million in the general fund, which ties exactly to the calculations. Audited financial statements are important because they allow us to determine what is correct based on verified numbers by Squire and Company, an auditing firm based in Orem, Utah. Here is the original ASD Orem estimate from June 2022. There are a number of issues here, but let's start out with the Orem only estimate. They have $91 million of MSP and local and state revenues, a little bit of board levy excess, $9.5 million of federal revenues, a little other local income for $104.7 million of income. They have some direct expenses of $105 million, 28.8 of support or overhead, $133.8 million, and they show a $29 million Orem only loss. Now, looking at the current ASD line, this is super important. Remember that the federal revenues, or the total revenues from the general fund, were $625 million, and here they're $634 million. And the expense shown for Orem is $630 million, but on the financial statements it was only $618 million. Now, what is this? Well, the revenues, the $625 million versus $634 million shown here is a difference of $9 million. If you don't tie to audited financial statements, how can the public have any faith in your numbers? Now, I'll explain why this is in a little bit, but it's about $9 million adjustment. The expenses are about $12 million. Later, it was discovered that ASD added the non-K through 12 fund into the general fund, which is one of the reasons why these amounts don't tie. But this is a violation of fund accounting, and the numbers don't actually make sense because the non-K through 12 fund breaks even, as I'll show you later, although Orem is showing as having a $2.5 million loss, which you'll see. The inclusion of the non-K through 12 fund into the general fund is a violation of GASB standards. And if they're not going to include the debt and capital funds, major funds, why are they including non-major funds like the non-K through 12 revenue? That's a curious choice. Now, in the right-hand column, you'll see the original Orem 2021 general fund estimate that ties to Alpine School District's estimate, $104.7 million in revenue, $133.8 million in expenses, or an Orem-only deficit of $29 million in the general fund. This will be the starting point for our analysis. This slide details ASD's Orem MSP calculation from June 2022. Notice on the left, Alpine School District's amount that was calculated by the State Board of Education. On the upper left, you'll see a 2021 WPU amount, which is correct, $3,596. On the far right, you'll see a $3,184 number, which was the 2017 WPU amount, which is incorrect. Alpine School District forgot to update their 2017 calculation shown to the Orem City Council for their 2021 estimate. And they shorted Orem about $7.6 million. Oops. In addition, the amount does not tie, the Orem taxable value does not tie to the State Tax Commission certified tax rate calculation, which showed $6.123 billion, not $8 billion. As we'll show you, Alpine has several different numbers, $8 billion here, $7.5 billion somewhere else, and it doesn't tie to the certified tax rate schedule. But this is the reason that Orem restated their $29 million loss to a $21 million loss.